Hello and welcome to video for looking at examples of using all and all except function on single table. In previous video, we have understood the syntax of these functions. In this video, we will now see inside Power BI Desktop how we can use it inside DAX Measure. We will also revisit the story of counting the balls from a jar to understand these functions. However, instead of balls, imagine that we have a customers to whom we have made the sales. These customers have attributes like gender, marital status, city, and so on. Just like balls may have color, size, weight, and so on. So before I move on, if you have forgotten the 4-step process which we have seen in earlier video, then I will suggest you to revisit it and then watch this video. So now I am assuming that you can still recall the 4-step process and we will not start inside Power BI Desktop to understand these functions. So we have now this Power BI Desktop open. Let us quickly create a matrix visual and then let us place customer key inside row area of this visual. So go to search bar, put customer key, and this customer key will be from customer table. So let us drag and drop. Now let us quickly format the values under row areas, column headers, and even values areas. So before that, we will be putting gross values under values area. So I will pause this video and we'll quickly format the font size for all of this and we'll come back. So now I have already formatted the font size. Here you can see that gross value is calculated for each of the customer key and number is different for each one of them. The grand total of all of these customers is 29.36 million. By now, I hope you understand that we have an initial filter context in this visual on the customer key for each of the sales. Now, imagine that you would need to determine for each of the customers whatever sales it has been made to that customer as a percentage to the total sales. In our color counting task, it will be finding percentage of balls of each color as compared to all balls in that particular jar. So to get this kind of a result, you can simply click on this measure over here, then go to show values and click on percent of column total. Now immediately you can see that the values have been changed and new values of percentage are being displayed over here. Now you can't use this inside other measures or visuals. So I would suggest you to manually or explicitly write DAX measures to get this kind of results. So don't use this option and start to use DAX functions for this. So let us change this back to original values from show values as no calculation. Now the question you might have is, how do I write this DAX? So let us break this into a small steps. The first one will be to determine the sales for each customer key, which we have already done. Then we will have to get a grand total sales value for each of the customers in each of these sales. So whatever value is coming at this grand total should also be appearing in this particular sale over here. And then third step, we can simply divide both of the values to get the percentage of each customer sales as to total sales. So let us get started and create a new DAX measure on our sales table. So let us right click sales table and let us click new measure. Now let us give this measure a name. It will be all customer sales equal to start with calculate. Now we need to get the gross total sales value for all the customers. So in second parameter, it will be all customer key from our customers table. Bracket closed and let us press enter. Now let us put this all customers measure in our values area. Now here you can see that we are getting the same total value across all of the customers. So now let us understand how we are getting the same value across all of these customers using our 4-step process which we have seen earlier for calculate function. In the first step, DAX engine determines the initial filter context which is currently on the customer key over here. Then in the next step, since we are using calculate, the filter context provided by it will have a priority. So in our current scenario, you can see that we are using all function. Now this is like a boss telling every person to count all the balls stored in a jar, no matter what color it is. Hence, logically speaking, everyone will be having the same answer, isn't it? So that's the same case which is happening in current scenarios as well. So here we will be counting for all of the customer keys. Then in the third step, it will filter out the records which we will be using on the entire sales table without any filter context which is coming on the customer key. So using all functions, we are removing the initial filter context and we will be calculating the total sales for all of the customers. And finally, in the fourth step, it will perform the mathematical aggregation and through which this value is being calculated and is being displayed over here. So I hope you are able to visualize these 4 steps which are happening in the backend to arrive at these results. I would suggest you to revisit the calculate function video if you have forgotten this 4-step process. Now that we have the total sales value for each of the customer in separate cells continuously displaying the same value, now we can simply divide this individual sales value to the total sales value to get the percentage. So let us create one more measure by right clicking sales table, create a new measure, and we will give percentage of sales to total sales. We'll be using divide function. We want to divide gross total sales value by all customers sales value, bracket closed. Let us press enter. Now let us put this inside our values area. And now we will also click on this, go to modeling tab and give formatting of percentage. So immediately you can see that we are getting the percentage of individual sales to the total sales. So I hope it is now clear to you what exactly this function is performing. Now further note that I have said that initial filter context only for the customer key will be removed and not for the entire customers table or any other columns coming from the customers table. So let us go to the customers table and let's see what other columns we have inside it. So you can see we have multiple columns which can be used inside these mutuals. So instead of let us say customer key, if I put gender under rows area and let us see whether we are getting the correct results. Now here you can see that our all customer sales value is not getting the total sales value. It is considering the initial filter context which is coming on the gender as well. So we are getting the same value in both the cells and finally the percentage is also the same. The reason behind this is that all customer sales that DAX measure is removing the initial filter context only on the customer key field. So if we want other columns also to be considered, we will have to add that columns in our formulas. So let us go to our all customer sales and this time we will add one more column inside this all function. Now I am adding gender from our customers table. Now if I press enter, immediately you can see that these values will be changed and this will show the total sales value and accordingly the percentage of sales to total sales will get calculated. Now further imagine that instead of gender, if you want to use other columns from this customer table, again this function will not work. So if let us say instead of gender, if I insert Marshall status under our rows area and this formula will not work again. So if you want to use multiple columns, you can go to our all customer sales and keep on adding the additional columns whichever needs to be removed from the initial filter context. But don't you think that will be a too cumbersome to add individual columns references over here? Why we can't refer the entire customers table? So yes, you can do that. So instead of referring to the individual columns, you can simply refer to the entire dim customer table. So let us press enter. And now here you can see that if I use any of the columns from the customers table, my all customer sales will always display the total sales value for all the customers included. So even if I go back and insert the customer key this time under rows area, you can see that my all customer sales and percentage to total sales is still working. Now imagine that after some time your boss comes back and sees that he wants to remove all the initial filter context except the customer key. So if I am using gender or Marshall status or any other columns from the customer table, those initial filter context should be removed. But if I am using customer key, it has to be intact. So there is a function called as all except you can use in that scenarios. This is like telling to the customer or telling to the staff you remove all the filter context except for a particular column. So I can go to my all customers and I can change this filter context over here. So this time I will start up with all except. Now the first parameter, it asks for which table references you want to work upon. So I will be referring to customers table. And now which column should be kept intact for initial filter context. So I will be using customer key and let us press enter. And now here you can see that initial filter context has been kept intact. So that's why you are getting the all customer sales value same in both gross total sales value and all customer sales value. And accordingly, our percentage to sales is giving same 100%. Now, instead of customer key, let us put gender and let's see what results we will be getting. So let us put this back into our rows area. And now this time you can see that initial filter context for gender has been removed for all customer sales. So this way you can use all except, all referencing to the entire table, or all referencing to a particular columns or multiple columns from the single table itself. Now in next video, we will look at how to use references from multiple tables for multiple columns and remove a specific initial filter context from multiple columns. So that is it from my side guys. See you guys in next video.